Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Sunday afternoon/evening, I guess. Joining us from Boston, Massachusetts at the TD Garden, where he watched the Celtics beat the Nuggets today by 7 points and watched the Cavs win there on Friday nights. Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody. A couple of my high school teammates were here today. It was great to see them. Bushlot brothers, Dave and
What
Chris.
team
Their
were
dad
you
was
on?
here. My high school, Randolph High School.
Teammates.
Their dad's 70th birthday present. They all came to see the game, which was great. Watched the game from start to finish.
As one
Our
would
host,
do when they come to the game.
denizen of Cavs Corner, who fair weather is to fair weather fans, showed up in the fourth quarter for big win on Friday.
That's that's exactly what happened. Joining us from Phoenix, Arizona.
I have receipts.
He's there. Going to go to the Suns Wolves game, which is not taking place yet. The return of Ant Edwards from his suspension is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Bontemps, did you get those teammates some water just like old times?
What about a towel? Were there a towel?
No.
That's right.
Me and Chris were co-captains on a very good team our senior year.
Define very good. I did actually play. Like Skip Bayless's
we were 20 and 20 and that was a low blow. We were 20-3.
Oh,
lost in the section final and both made the remember which team it is. All area team.
All farm
so
boy
let me
team.
just say, I've never heard about your high school basketball exploits. This is the first time I've even heard of it.
Well, let me just say, I've seen his current basketball exploits in high school. Was either a long time ago or the competition wasn't real high.
It's definitely a long time ago, though I played better than MacMahon the last time we played.
That is false. I won MVP, baby.
Self-appointed, just like the self-appointed watcher of the game on Friday. I was a pretty good high school basketball player in my area, I would say.
His area is known for like milking cows.
Hey, listen, I am not trying to say that I was like all world, but I was a good player and we had a really good team. So
I mean,
well, you guys are tall.
Utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, we had a bunch of big, tall farm kids, and then my buddy who was here was our shooter. He was the one person who was allowed to shoot threes on the team. So,
well, my senior year of high school, my high school team went 3-17.
I know we met the star of that team during the live show at Old St. Vincent St. Mary's.
And a few years later, they won the mythical national championship.
What happened in the time between? How did they get so good so quickly?
Much better recruiting. You want the honest answer? Much better recruiting. A guy got in there and said, let's see if we can go down and recruit some guys like who they don't have to go to pay to go to high school here. Let's start with this kid, James LeBron, number 32.
Not a bad plan.
I've maybe talked about this on the pod before, but I was made so aware of the changes in the sport when I went back like a few years ago to watch a game. It was like 15 years after I graduated or so. And like I said, when I was on the team, there was one kid who was allowed to shoot threes and anybody else was basically not allowed to shoot outside the paint. And the offense that my coach, who's still there now, runs, he's going to the Hall of Fame this month, in the area, is like the D'Antoni, 4 guys out, 2 guys run to the corners, pick and rolls at the top of the key. Everybody shoots threes. The game I went to, they got 3 shot clock violations for not shooting mid-range jumpers, going back to try to shoot threes. It's just like, it was crazy to see that compared to when I was in school and like how much, even at that level, things have totally shifted towards the 3-point line.
Anyway, they know how to shoot threes in Boston.
Sure do.
Although I got to tell you something about this Nuggets game today. The Nuggets attempted more 3-pointers. I should have looked this up before. I meant to look about this. The Nuggets attempted more 3-pointers than the Celtics. That's a stunning development considering the Nuggets is a 3-point shooting team and the Celtics as a 3-point shooting team. Now, granted, the Celtics were missing a couple of guys, but is that just a one-off anomaly, Bontemps? Like 3-point shooting didn't really define the game, but
yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. I think who were shooting those threes in part defined the game.
Well, it wasn't like the Celtics shot 86% or 18%, and it wasn't like the Nuggets shot the same.
Well, to your point, just for listeners at home. So most everybody knows that Boston shoots a lot of threes and Denver doesn't. So the Celtics lead the league with 48 3-point attempts per game. Denver is dead last with 31. And in this game, the Celtics shot 34 and Denver essentially shot 34. They shot a 35th one at the buzzer to go up to have one extra one. But they essentially shot the same number in the game, which I certainly was not anticipating when the game started. To MacMahon's point, 16 of those threes were attempted by Russell Westbrook and Christian Brown, who each went 2 for 8.
And look, first of all, Russ and Brown aren't going to start together often. It's been either or, and it was Russ for a little bit. It was Brown to start, then it was Russ for a little bit, and then they went back to Brown recently. Aaron Gordon was out today, so they're both in the starting lineup. Aaron Gordon's actually having a very good three-point shooting season, although he's still a guy that teams are willing to live with. But not only were the Celtics willing to live with Brown and Russ shooting threes, but like that's what they were hoping to happen. That's what they were kind of scheming defensively to happen. And you'd much rather those guys combining to take 16 threes, which is one more shot than Joker had overall, than living with Joker going one-on-one against your backup big man.
Well, and the one thing I will say too is we had that debate not too long ago about whether they should keep Russ in the starting lineup. They should go with Christian Brown going forward. Russ getting hurt got Christian Brown back in the starting lineup. All I'm going to say about today's game, yes, Christian Brown went 2 for 8 for 3. He also had 24 points and played very well. Most important stat, though, was he played over 46 minutes in the game, which I'm not saying that as a commentary on minutes for him playing that many. I would say it's a recognition from Michael Malone that going forward, if there were any questions about whether he's going to lose that starting spot again, I don't think that's going to be in the cards, and he's going to be starting one way or the other going forward for Denver.
I didn't realize that until you just mentioned it. He rested for a total of 72 seconds a day. 72 seconds he wasn't on the floor. And by the way, another soundboard double, as they call it, for Joker, where he ends up, in this case, 1 assist shy of a triple-double.
He might have needed some stitches because he had no free throws in this game. I don't know. I didn't see whether Malone talked about it afterwards.
Well, Malone made a comment. I asked Malone about the 2 guys shooting in the corners, and he made a comment about how in the first month or 2 of the season, they were top 5 in free throw attempt rate. Yeah. And it's gone down to the bottom of the league since then. But he didn't do it in a any kind of combative way, nor was he. He seemingly was just making the point, because I even followed up to say hey, do you have any idea why that's the case? And he wasn't we need to get more fouls called. He basically said we just have to be more aggressive in trying to attack the paint. So I didn't even realize that had been the case. I thought it was interesting, but it didn't, unless I missed what his argument was. He wasn't really trying to make we're not getting fouled enough argument.
So Jokic took no free throws in this game. Friday night in Detroit, where the Nuggets had a pretty nice win, actually. They beat the Pistons. Yeah. Pistons had won 8 in a row. The Nuggets were on the second night of a back-to-back. The Nuggets, and I've asked some people in Denver if they can explain this, and other than saying, well, it's nice to have Jokic and Murray, the Nuggets are 11-1 on the second nights of back-to-backs this year, which, considering how thin they are,
that's an incredible stat.
Yeah, I can't even really explain it other than they're good. And I'd have to go look and see if some of those are at home where, they have some advantage, a little bit playing at home.
Either way, it just helps. It helps that the big guy is always available.
I was going to say, I'd be curious to see Joker stats. And Joker, while he doesn't look like a marathon runner or anything like that, is incredibly durable. I mean, as he told you today, Bontemps, he's always limping. And
this was actually a funny thing. So he landed funny. It was a weird jump ball, and he landed funny. And he was pretty clearly limping in the first quarter. I even went and asked the Nuggets play-by-play team, Katie Wingy and Chris Marlowe and Scott Hastings, were not doing the game today, so they were sitting behind me. And I said, look, I know this guy sort of shuffles around all the time, but he is limping, right? And I said, he definitely looked like he was favoring it. So Bennett Durando, the beat writer for the Denver Post, tried to get some sort of acknowledgement of what happened after the game. And when he said, you look like you were limping more often than normal today, or something like that, Jokic said, yeah, I've been limping for 14 years, which was a pretty good line.
My point is, he always looks like, as you said, Wendy, he's lumbering, but the guy can play heavy minutes and is incredibly durable. And I would bet you that his production in that 11-1 back-to-back record is pretty pretty
Well, his
impressive.
production every game is pretty good. Although he only had 20 points today, only. Well, anyway, so on Friday they're playing in Detroit, and Malone was trying to set the tone. He got a technical after 2 Nuggets possessions, angry that Jokic didn't get foul calls. 2 inside 1 minute. I think Popovich holds the record for the fastest tech. I think this got to be second. It was less than 1 minute into the game.
Fastest tech by a coach or a player?
I got coach. I mean, there were some times where Rasheed Wallace got texts coming out of the pregame.
I saw Gobert once get one like seconds into the game. He got a foul on the opening tip. He got a foul in the first possession. Then he slammed the water bottle off the scores table when he checked out. But anyways.
Well, anyway, Jokic at one point today got his arm. He always has scabs on his arms because he's forever getting cut on his arms just because of the nature of the way he plays. Like he's always swinging them around and people are always poking at the ball. But he had like a nasty cut today where his blood like pouring down his arm. And, that will now be in a game where he had no free throws. Not saying that he got hit on a shot. I'm just saying that, he gives the Nuggets ammunition to talk about how he doesn't get enough fouls. But the Cavs had as many 3-pointers as Boston on Friday. I didn't sort of notice that until I saw today's number. Could just be an anomaly, Bontemps. I mean, Porzingis has been out the last couple games and Drew Holiday's been out. So I don't know. I'm not saying it means anything. I'm just remarking on it. But in both games, the Celtics got up huge early on. And in the Cavs game, they blew it. In this game, they allowed Denver to get back into it a little bit. But it still supports, as good as the Cavs were in their comeback on Friday, and Donovan Mitchell with one of his best games of the season, if not the best game of the season. Mm-hmm. He had 41.
He was awesome.
Just huge carrying the Cavs back. And then Evan Mobley had a big fourth quarter. I have a hard time seeing as Boston was up big in both games,
Well, and they're missing Porzingis and they're missing Drew Holiday.
Right. I have a hard time walking away from this weekend, which is, a good test weekend for Boston with the 2 big home games. I have a hard time walking away from this, changing my opinion, even though the Cavs got that win on Friday, that the Celtics remain the favorites.
I mean, it's the same thing they did a week ago today. They had a 1:00 ABC game against the Knicks. They did the exact same thing. They were up by 20 some in the first half, and then the game was down to 4 at the end of the third quarter, and they went on to win that game too. But I mean, this is what the Celtics do, right? The Celtics do this all the time. They play around in games, and when they're locked in and engaged, they look incredible, and then they'll turn off for a while and let teams back into it. And the Cavs got away with it and were able to come back and win on Friday. But yeah, I mean, the Celtics still clearly are the best team in the East. I think, maybe, I certainly pick them to beat the Cavs. I'd probably pick them to beat both the Thunder and the Nuggets. I think both those teams could beat them in a series. But yeah, coming out of that Cavs game, that was a fantastic win for the Cavs. Donovan was unbelievable in the game. Darius Garland, he only went 9 for 23, but showed me a lot in the game still.
Couple big ones late.
Yeah, some big ones late. He was aggressive the whole time. Really, it's true. Might be a certain, it's the end of the month, Brian. So we know what's coming later in the pod.
Yes. Also, first off, it's right at the end of the Cavs and the Trailblazers are locked in a very tight game in the last 2 minutes, and Garland's been horrible today. But I should point out that one of us 3 has a story coming out on Garland, and it's not me or you, Bontemps. So it already went out. I didn't
read it. It ran on Friday.
Yeah, as part of his not paying attention to the Cavs on Friday. I also didn't read the story on Friday.
Sorry.
So.
Listen, I'll say this. Wendy was on one of these runs where he was on Get Up through NBA Countdown, so I don't blame him for not doing a whole lot of.
Yeah, Bontemps was angry at me that I wasn't able to watch a game while I was flying on an airline that doesn't have streaming Wi-Fi.
Listen, all I gotta say, people at home.
There's an airline that doesn't have Wi-Fi?
No, not streaming.
All I gotta
Wi-Fi
say
doesn't work. Streaming doesn't work.
Here's what I'm gonna say, people at home. there was a lot of commentary about the Akron-Kent State game right up until about the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
All right.
Then he came flying in with all sorts of analysis on the Cavs.
Leave Wendy alone. Leave the Cavs corner.
It's all
mayor
good.
alone.
Cavs corner.
It
was a huge night for Cavs corner.
I was flying during the first half, during the third half, or during the third quarter. I was unavailable, and the fourth quarter I watched. What do you want me to say?
Listen. Let's get back to talking Cavs Celtics here.
I will say at the 5-minute mark of the game, the Celtics call timeout. They're up 25-3, or the Cavs call timeout. Celtics are up 25-3. The place is exploding. I turned to Sam Coombs, the PR guy for the Cavs, who was sitting next to me, and I said, I don't know if you're going to win the game, but you're going to be back in the game pretty soon, because I've seen this before. And they were back. I'm not, listen.
Old Nostradamus here. After
no, hey, listen. I'm just saying, this is what the Celtics do. The Celtics play around. We've talked about this now for years. This has been a years-long thing where the Celtics look better than every team in the league for stretches of games, and then they get into isolation-heavy offense, and they get out of sync, and they mess around, and then all of a sudden it's a game again.
I mean, that is classic vintage USWB analysis where he managed to insult both teams. He insults both teams at once.
No, it's got nothing to do with insulting the Cavs. This is what the Celtics do all the time.
Well, I guess. Well, here's the point. So, like, what am I supposed to take out of a team that gets way ahead and then loses focus? Is that a sign of a team that's bored, or a sign of a team that's flawed? So, I mean, I don't have an answer for that.
I think it's probably more bored than flawed. Also, like, no Porzingis, no Holiday. I mean, these are two of their top 6 players, arguably top. I mean, we could debate 4 or 5, whatever. 2 of their key guys.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, hey, we all watched the Celtics cruise to a championship last year. Like, nobody challenged Boston during a playoff run, when, by the way, Porzingis missed the vast majority of the run. Now, he had that game 1 moment in the finals, and, I'm not saying he didn't contribute, but my point is they were without him most of that run and still weren't ever challenged. The Cavaliers have proven that they are going to be a legitimate challenger, and this was a huge win. And when we kind of argued last week about how big this game was for the Cavs, Bontemps and I both agreed, just for a feeling standpoint, a confidence standpoint, of like we're real type of standpoint, especially after they got down 25-3. If they'd have gotten just rolled,
and those 2 guys were out.
Yeah, if they'd have gotten rolled, it'd have been
I understand.
They rallied, they came back, but of course, Boston's the favorites, despite the fact that the Cavaliers are going to win like 67, 68 games.
This goes to your question, Brian. I would say the answer is, if you say, is it a flawed team or a bored team? We've been having this same discussion about the Celtics going back to at least the 2022 run where they got to the finals. And the way they play and the amount of 3-pointers they shoot, they're going to be a team that's going to experience swings back and forth in games. They're also, if you look at their home and road record, their road record in the playoffs has been incredible. I think because
the road record this season is incredible. They're the number 1 road team in the NBA.
Because when they go on the road, I think they're more focused and disciplined and stay committed to the way they need to play. And when they play at home, their attention at times tends to drift, especially when they get these leads and they let teams back in. So I think it's a sign that at their peak, the Celtics, I think, are the best team in the league. But their peaks come in brief flashes where they go way up and then they come back down. And there's not a consistency that allows them to stay at that high level, and we'll see if that is something that's going to be a problem in the playoffs. But I guarantee you, we're going to be talking about this in the spring, where they're playing in high-level playoff games, and they're out to big leads, and they blow it again, and we're going to be sitting here going, how did the Celtics do this again? It's probably going to happen more than once.
Yes, well, that was sort of the thing last year. They were so much better than everybody that their tendency to, be their own worst enemy just wasn't as applicable. It just wasn't as applicable.
And they're not so much better than the Cavaliers.
Right. Well, I think if you're a Cavs fan, what you're yelling at Bontemps about right now, I'll just do it for you. DeAndre Hunter did have an impact in that game, including getting a block shot on Jason Tatum in the last 30 seconds or so that where his size and length made a huge difference. If that was Karis LeVert guarding him, not that that's who it would have been, or Isaac Okoro, probably doesn't get that block. Donovan Mitchell has dominated the Celtics defense this year. No matter what anybody wants to say, no matter how you want to qualify it, he has obliterated them all 4 times they've played.
Yeah, for sure.
He's averaged, it was like, I'm trying to remember the stat, the number of guys who have averaged over 30 points in the regular season.
There's 2. It's Donovan Mitchell and Michael Jordan.
Oh, okay.
So, you're looking
at that number
at
went up on Friday. It was before Friday's game when he had 41.
And while Tatum was awesome, what was Tatum's final number? 40.
I believe he had 46, right? 16, and 9 in the game.
But his second half, when they turned the screws a little bit, they were able to. I think he was maybe 7 of 18 in the second half or something like that.
The Cavs played their normal rotation because they had all of their guys healthy for a rare time this year, and Joe Mazzulla went for the game. He played essentially 7 guys. Peyton Pritchard was minus 33. Luke Cornett was minus 24. They were horrendous. The bench got outscored 33-6. And I think the Celtics starters, in particular Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, got a little tired as the game went on, in part because they were playing a lot more minutes than the Cavs.
Tatum also got tired because he got up 37 shots. I mean, that in and of itself is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it was very slanted towards him and Jalen doing most of the shooting in the game, which is not the way they typically want to play either.
But Donovan Mitchell put in so much work; he needed a rest day today. But Wendy, you talked about the gears of Donovan Mitchell, the different gears he can get to. And this was one where it was like, hey, they needed the very best of Donovan Mitchell. And he responded to that challenge. And look, Donovan in his career has not had a breakthrough deep playoff run, but he has absolutely dominated playoff series. He has multiple 50-point games in the playoffs. He is 100% capable of taking over a playoff series.
Well, and the most interesting thing about that game was what the Cavs did down the stretch, which was they had DeAndre Hunter in the game, like you said, Brian, and they didn't have Jared Allen in the game. And he was rooted to the bench down the stretch. They were playing Evan Mobley at the 5. And the addition, like you said, of Hunter, his defense is a little overrated. He's not, he's a bigger wing. He's not a guy who you could throw out there and expect to slow down, those elite players for the Cavs, or for the Celtics, I should say. But he does give them another big wing who can play the 4 when you go small, and it gives them more ability to go with just one of the bigs, and presumably that's going to be Evan Mobley at the 5. And that was obviously a very interesting wrinkle to see them go to down the stretch of that game, and certainly help play a part in them coming back and winning that game.
Yeah, so I would just say this. If the Celtics get to a position where they have to win a game in Boston, which could happen against the Cavs, Cleveland will enter that type of game with confidence because they believe they might be able to have the best player in the game. Whether or not that ends up being actually true or not, but I think that's one of the takeaways you can.
Donovan Mitchell's good enough to win you a playoff game at home or on the road, against just about any team, not just about any team. He's shown.
By the way, MacMahon, Darius Garland missed a free throw with a few seconds left that contributed to the game going to overtime.
I'm watching. I thought I just rewound.
Always about Cavs corner here on the pod. Always.
I thought it was
giving
an
you a live update.
Just
giving you a live update.
Giving you a live update at this point, probably 24 hours after the game.
That's true. All right. So, Bontemps, today, the Nuggets fell behind by 12 points in the first quarter. Boston with a typical game. This is what I thought was going to be the finals last year. Boston was the only team in the league. Only team in the league that Boston didn't beat last year was Denver. They were 0-2
and I don't think they would have beat Denver in the finals either.
I would just know that we would have had a better finals. No offense to the Mavericks.
No,
but,
they were the team. They were the team I expected to be there the whole time.
And so I'm not sure what I learned from today, but again, last year Denver went into Boston and won, and today they didn't. And this very well could be a finals matchup. this year. Denver had been red hot, and now I think they've lost 3 out of 4 going on East trip.
They were 2-2 this week on their trip.
Okay, so they've won
today.
Yeah, they lost in Milwaukee, lost in Boston, won in Detroit, which I deem a good win.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you take away from today. I think we have a pretty good feel that, if it was Cavs Celtics, I'd pick the Celtics, but I would probably
You wouldn't pick anybody.
Yeah, that's true. It was funny the other day when the other day I was doing First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Gilbert Arenas, and Stephen A. has decided the Cavs are he's big on in the Cavs corner. He's got a big.
We know why. We know why that is. He ain't picking a Boston team, and his team ain't beating Boston. So he's got to find somewhere to go.
It's a little bit of subversion because he's really sort of jabbing the Knicks because he believes Donovan Mitchell would have been,
of course,
the man in New York, even though they did fine with Jalen Brunson. But
they've been okay there.
Anyway, he goes on this long, adulation and praises the Cavs up and down Donovan Mitchell, and he's like, I think they could beat the Celtics, and Gilbert just goes 4-2. he just totally dismissed. He goes 4-2, and so anyway, I looking at today's game, I don't feel as strongly about Denver against Boston as I did last year.
Well, look, Aaron Gordon not playing is a very significant thing today. It's the end of a week-long road trip. They were clearly pretty tired. They played Thursday and Friday, and then they play Sunday afternoon. But I will say, to me, the only thing that matters with Denver right now is that Jamal Murray is back. And I don't know what happened I know he had the calf injury in the spring. I don't know if that lingered through the summer. I don't know if he was dealing with something else. He then struggled to start of the year. I don't know what happened. But since December 1st, the guy's averaging, coming into today, 22.5 a game on 49% shooting and 43.5 from 3 and 6 assists a game. That's the Jamal Murray. That was the co-star with Nikola Jokic in the 2023 run to the title. And if that Jamal Murray sticks around through the end of the playoffs this year, Denver's going to be able to hang with anybody if the rest of their guys are ready to go. And that 1-2 punch with him and Jokic is going to be a bear to deal with for Oklahoma City or Boston or, any other team. They got to play. And he was great in the second half today, was a big part of them coming back in the game. But that's really the whole takeaway with them. If those two guys are cooking, then, Christian Brown and Russ have to hit some threes. And, Aaron Gordon, he's had some injuries throughout the year. We'll see if he can stay healthy. But, if their team is healthy and those two guys are good, I don't want to play Denver in a playoff series.
I mean, I'll tell you what happened with Jamal Murray is he played his way into shape. He showed up to camp and early in the season, talking to their people. He was a little bit puffy. The body fat percentage was higher than they wanted to be, all those kind of things. He played his way into shape. And he's been the guy since then that we've seen for most of his time with the Nuggets when he's been healthy. Obviously rough playoffs last year, rough Olympics. I certainly questioned the max deal. Whatever. Ownership wanted it done. It got done. And right now he's there's no beef with it because he's playing at that championship caliber co-star level. Never been an all-star, but he's been a champion, and he was he's been a playoff superstar, that's for sure.
I'll put it this way. There were 2 late summer maximum extensions done from guys who play in the Olympics. One was Jamal Murray. One was Joel Embiid.
I'll take the Murray one.
Yeah. So I was want to frame it like that. Embiid, who out for the year, which is not a surprise. Nothing really to say there, but
right. We've
covered it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if it's Denver or Boston in the finals, and Denver's got their full complement of players,
Jokic has always
destroyed
the Celtics.
Always. There comes Wendy just disrespecting the Thunder again.
I didn't disrespect the Thunder. The Thunder are my favorite to win the West. So
no, you just said Denver versus Boston in the finals, and Bricktown.
I said if.
No, you said Bricktown's just a little speck on the map, not worth your time.
Okay.
No free drinks for you at the GOAT.
Yeah, well, that's fine. All right. So we had some unfortunate injury news on Sunday. Jalen Suggs. I think, I don't know if the team announced it. I know Shams reported it. I don't know who to give credit for. I'll just give credit to Shams. I'm not trying to.
Shams
somebody
reported
else
it
said
first, and then the
Okay.
team announced it.
Okay.
Yep.
Jalen Suggs needs to have arthroscopic knee surgery, which is a huge bummer. The Magic have been arguably the most disappointing team of the second half. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
the Suns and the Sixers have been extremely disappointing, but I would argue that's been the whole season long. When Jalen Suggs got injured in the first week of January, the Magic were 20-15. They are now 29-32.
5 games over with him, 8 games under without him.
Now they play the next 2 games against the Raptors, so I don't know. That may, including tonight. So I don't know what's going to happen
But still, we've seen the impact of Jalen Suggs the last couple months, and him not being there, the impact it's had on this team, and frankly, like the impact it's had on Paolo Banchero, because he has been bad since he came back from this oblique injury.
Well, he had a 40-point game earlier this week.
Yeah, but
yes.
it's been a, and look, Paulo, to ask a 6'10", 250-pound young developing star to be a primary facilitator, a primary initiator, it's a lot. It's a lot. And just to put that 20-15 in perspective, remember, Paulo missed most of those games. Franz missed a bunch of those games. I'm not saying Suggs is their best player or even their most important player, but we are seeing just how much he matters to the Magic, and he matters, offensively. He's become like he's a 3-and-D guy who can initiate the offense. And then defensively, he's on the very short list of the best, on ball defenders in the league.
Yeah, depending. I mean, he can definitely guard 1, 2, or 3. I'd see there's certain circumstances where you'd say, all right, let him guard a 4, but he's so strong that he can guard bigger than his size.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a big factor.
Could you imagine being a high school team playing against Suggs and Holmgren in Minnesota? Like, did anybody ever score on that team?
Wouldn't think so.
I don't know, but I know that Gonzaga benefited greatly from Suggs going there because Holmgren went there because Suggs went there.
Right.
So and Suggs had that. Didn't he have that one magical NCAA tournament game?
They got to the national championship game after he hit the shot against UCLA to win the game, buzzer. And yeah, Paolo, I mean, since he came back from injury in 22 games, shooting 41% overall, shooting 29% from 3, shooting 69% from the line on 7 attempts a game.
Not
and
nice.
When he's on the court, I mean, they're getting outscored heavily. And they're several points better when he's not on the court. I'm not saying they're better off when they're getting outscored by almost 10 points per 100 possessions over the last 2 months with him on the court, and their offensive rating is 100.9, which is abysmal. So, I mean, look, obviously Paolo's a great player and he's got a bright future, but we've talked a lot about Jalen Green's efficiency, and like those are like Jalen Green efficiency or worse numbers when Jalen Green has been bad. So, I mean, that's a pretty concerning stretch for a guy that's supposed to be, the anchor of this team going forward offensively.
Well, they're 28th in offense as a team, and it's very hard to overcome that. I mean, if you look at the teams that are down there with them as far as the worst offenses, this is the teams around them: Washington, Charlotte, Brooklyn, Toronto, New Orleans, Portland, Philadelphia, Utah, Atlanta. I don't see a winning team yet.
No.
Clippers are the first winning team. If you're in the bottom 10 on offense, you're a losing team.
Yeah, and bottom 3, you're in the Cooper Flag Derby, except for the Magic.
Yeah.
Which again is why I will say I remain a little bit mystified that the Magic wouldn't try to get some help at the trade deadline. I'm not saying they had to trade for Brandon Ingram and give him a $120 million contract. They have all these expiring contracts. They have all these draft picks. I remain surprised that they didn't try to at least get some help for their offense. Just get somebody who could put the ball in the basket so you're not 28th, regardless of Suggs' health.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even certain they're going to make the playoffs.
Well, if they make the playoffs, if you're 28th in offense, how can you win 4 out of 7 in a
Might see Magic Cavs part 2 in the first round.
Well,
Probably won't be quite
I
the
don't
same
think it'll
series
go
as last
7.
year.
Yeah, I don't
probably
think it'll
not.
go 7. I don't think. Yeah, God, that series
not
last
with the
year
number one
was
offense in the league going against them.
series last year was ugly.
Sure was.
Anthony Simon just hit a 3 to put the Blazers up.
Oh, you just wait a couple
Brian's really
seconds there,
focused
buddy.
on the podcast.
Just wait a couple seconds, buddy. The new hero of
Hashtag
Cleveland.
Cavs corner,
The
baby.
guy
Oh,
who
I was on a
I
little
got my
bit of a
Cavs
delay.
corner colored blazer on today.
the guy who's about to be added to that big old sign on the Sherwin-Williams building just responded.
Yeah. DeAndre Hunter just hit a 3. You're a little ahead of me, MacMahon.
I know, I can tell the future 24
yeah.
hours after it happens.
Well, that was a potentially big 3 that DeAndre Hunter just hit, giving him an early nod in the Cojones Factor standings for March.
There you
What
go.
about the Cojones Factor?
Oh, we want to do
February?
this now, or do we
Sure.
not want to? Do we not want to have any discussion on Ant? Fresh off a suspension.
I just got to give McMahon credit because nobody covers technical fouls like Tim McMahon. And now that Luka's gone and away from Dallas, we now got McMahon bombing in to give updates on Anthony Edwards' technical foul tracker. And I'm just glad to know your technical foul expertise is not going anywhere.
Luka got a tee like 3 minutes into the game against the Mavericks, and I didn't have so much of a tweet on it. But yes, when Anthony Edwards
also, you did not get any passive aggressive statements from the Mavericks to ask for a pool report that night.
Cuban was there wearing his Luka ones courtside though. By the way, some strong Jordan brand performance with the advertising stuff. But
Sure.
no, yeah, when Ant goes into the game with 14 technical fouls, gets just a silly tee at the end of the first quarter where him and Jared Vanderbilt are like trading shoves as they're walking to the bench. It's like, okay, there's 15. And then honestly, 16, I did some research. Brent Barnaky played ball at Flagler College, was listed at 6'1". I'm going to guess that was with shoes on.
Oh my God.
Can we actually talk about Ant? Can we just skip this?
It was a sub 6 foot tee. Ant got fouled. I'm sure he let out some variate, probably a MF or something along those lines.
You know what though? I was going to say.
All right, fine. Let's just agree that the 16th without speaking on the referee.
But it didn't get rescinded.
It didn't get rescinded. And I'll say this: Finch didn't complain about it. He complained about the no call. He didn't complain about the tee.
And by the way, this guy walks off the court, throws the ball into the stands, gets himself fined.
More Sprite money gone. He's about to start dipping into the Adidas money.
I mean, he has had multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines this year. Fines.
Yeah,
like that is crazy.
Buddy, it went over $300,000. He got fined $35,000 for throwing the ball in the stands. That he was at $285, so that goes over $300,000 in fines. Then his game check was $300,000 or something like that. So he's whatever it is, he's over $500,000. So. But look, let's just agree that the 16th tech was soft. Let's just agree.
But whatever.
What about the other 15?
Yeah,
and
he did have one
wasn't
rescinded.
even over yet.
I think this is a Stats Williams special. If not, it's from our ESPN research group. The last guy to have 16 tees before March was Boogie Cousins in 2016-17 when Boogie was like in his heyday of being a royal pain in the butt for refs.
Yeah.
And the thing, like Chris Finch, I don't know if you guys have the quote from Utah pregame from Finchy, but basically he said, like, Ant's got to get this under control, but he didn't want him to be unfairly labeled. Like, Ant is not. His point was Ant's not like an angry guy. He's not one of these guys who's just berating referees from the get-go. And like, we've all been around Ant. Everybody who's been around Ant typically enjoys the experience. But for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it is because he's been so frustrated with just the season as a whole, coming off of last year's Western Conference Finals trip, Ant has, as Finch calls them, these outbursts. And it's 16 now. And it cost them a game that, like, dude, you're fighting for play-in position, maybe to get out of the play-in. Right now, you're tied for 9th. You have the tiebreaker on the Mavericks, but you're 9th in the West because you just lost a game against the tanking Utah Jazz.
Well, it's worse than that, buddy. They lost that game on Thursday close. It was a 5-point game with 3 or 4 minutes left. Gobert and Julius Randle are out. DiVincenzo was going to be out the second night of a back-to-back. So I don't know. He severely damaged their chance to win Thursday because if he's in the game, who knows?
Yeah.
Then Friday they lose because they're missing basically their whole starting lineup, and he's suspended. And they're in ninth place.
Just a game you can't lose in Utah right now in the position that you're in. And here's the thing. Now, going forward, they have 21 games left in the season. Every other technical foul is another game suspended.
I'm looking
just to be clear, so people understand that it's not literally everyone. So like
no,
17 is okay, and then 18, right? I was just saying. So 18, 20, etc.
Tonight, I can see Ant getting his 17th tech, and and somebody in the Wolves designation asking for a full report from MacMahon.
When it comes to this level of techs, you ain't got to ask. I'm asking for a pull report. I'm sorry. Like,
look.
Just like with Luka, when a superstar starts getting toward that suspension territory, every tech is a story. It just is what it is.
He's the Jordan of tech reporting. He loves to talk to the refs, so he wants the pool reports.
Gucci Mane was the crew chief, and certainly Gucci Mane, he needed help to get to those pedals on that Jazzmobile.
That's a deep cut.
He's also first, I believe, in the league in techs over the last 5 years. Owen Phillips, who does a very good Substack, went and broke down all the referee stats over the last few years. What's that?
Barnacki not only threw him out, he gave him the heave ho.
The actor. Yes.
Oh, yeah, no.
Anyway,
he gave him the heave
by the way, let me just say
5'11" and 3/4 in socks.
Enough ref discussion.
Hold on. I'm getting control.
Ooh, okay. I've been trying to make an ant point.
Tech on
Zach Zarba is the crew chief tonight, MacMahon.
Ooh.
Do not meth with Zach Zarba.
No, listen. Good hair. I know that's why you like
Zach Zarba and
He's got a windy like quaff.
Zach Zarba and I both came in the league in the same year. We have a kinship from that. Do not mess with Zach Zarba.
I chit-chatted with Zarba and some other refs before game
Zach's
2 of the West Finals last year in a hotel lobby. Just ran into him.
All right, go ahead, Bontemps.
He introduced himself, and I said, "Hey, you're good with me. You're over 6 feet tall."
Enough ref talking, MacMahon.
Bontemps, who put you in
charge?
The refs.
We know the refs like it to listen to our pod.
You're a distant third, like the Bulls in a 3-way trade.
Okay. No argument there on that. Look, we are a very pro Ant pod. We have been a very pro Ant pod for a while. However, the immaturity he has just showed throughout the year has not been good. And it's been a part of the frustrations there. I mean, remember, go back to earlier in the year when he was talking about, I got to make sure I get my points in games. I'm not here to pass the ball. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was not exactly the thing you want to be hearing.
He said getting doubled and passing out ain't any fun.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Buckets.
Yes. So look, he is a phenomenal player. He's super fun. As you said, being around him is fun. He's a great quote. He's fun to watch, all of it. But for this Minnesota team to get where it needs to go, he's got to get it under control on a variety of fronts, including these technical fouls. Because you just can't be getting like you said, Brian, it was before February was over, and we're talking about him getting suspended from games. MacMahon is usually, with Luka the past couple of years, he'd be like at 15 on April 5th. He'd be like, oh, is he going to miss a game?
Well, Luka would also miss 10 or 12 games, and Ant plays almost every night.
That's fair.
Yes, but my point is just Ant has LeBron-like ankles where he will roll his ankle, and you're like, oh my God, he might be out a week, and he's back 30 seconds later.
So they need him to be out there playing for them under control and fully involved.
Let me take it a step further. All this discussion about Ant being the, future or current or whatever face of the NBA, it's all cool. He's got to do better as a leader for his own team.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true.
100%.
Although I will say, talking to Ant, like the man's obviously got a colorful vocabulary that's cost him.
I don't care about cursing. I'm just saying, I don't care about
but that gets him a lot of the tees, and quite frankly, I think Impepler is a term of endearment to him.
Listen,
the referees need to understand it's a compliment.
I mean, I know we're doing another ref jag, but that's not the point is he's got to be more locked in. He has to be for them to be the team that they want to be and to get back to where they were last year or get beyond that. Like he can't be this out of control.
Agreed. All right. He'll now have 38 tonight and hit the
He probably will. And we'll have 37 different explanations of how these choices for Cojones Factor of the Month were
he'll look at he'll when he does the post-game interview, he'll like hold his hands like the kids and Sound of Music and be very
he may, but I suspect he will not.
Yeah.
Hey,
MacMahon, what do we got?
Two things that I know: technical fouls and cojones. All right. All right.
And
we'll start off with a shout out. Nick Claxton had that put back buzzer beater against the 76ers. There was 3 buzzer beaters last month.
Then he got suspended. Speaking of guys who get suspended, Nick Claxton has 6 flagrant fouls this year. You don't look at that guy and think that guy's an enforcer.
I also feel like I was also stunned by that because I feel like he's missed a ton of games. Like I don't know how he got.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. His flagrant foul per game percentage is wild. Honestly, I don't remember the last time.
52 games. That's more than I would have guessed.
Well, if we're gonna get on Ant for getting suspended for text in February, we ought to make a mention that Nick Claxton got a flagrant suspension for February. I don't think I've ever remembered that happening.
Except for nobody gives a crap about the Brooklyn Nets.
Nonetheless, that was
look, when I saw the email that popped up, it said Nick Claxton suspended. I didn't think it was going to be for flagrant foul.
I just wanted to give the man a shout out because he had a buzzer beater. There were 3 buzzer beaters last month. He didn't get he didn't get an award here. It's just a shout out. We don't need to get in a whole flagrant foul discussion of a team that nobody watches. My God.
Well, they do play in a very big market, and he has 6 flagrant fouls by February 25th. He had 6 flagrants. I just think that's remarkable. Go on.
If Cooper Flag's there next year, we'll all pay close attention.
Bontemps will be heading over the river. All right, go on.
Oh yeah. All right.
That was the brass one, or that was
just a shout out. You guys are really prolonging this.
Sorry.
We're prolonging it.
It was a few seconds shout out, and then we went off talking about and then there was a wind up, and there was this and that. I mean,
just go move along.
You move along. Don't you have a flight to catch? We can do this without you. It's not like you never contributed to cojones in your entire life.
No, he was 20-3 as a senior at
It's true. Yeah.
All right. Brass balls. Bam Adebayo started the month off with a buzzer beater, little mid-ranger in San Antonio at the time.
I believe he's hit 2 buzzer beaters this year.
Yeah, at the time I was worried he might be costing me a dinner, but then Wimby didn't hit the minimum games played requirement. But bam, nice little clutch month, 22 points, 10 rebounds.
He's just instigating you left and right, Bontemps.
I mean, the number of comments I got this week absolutely obliterating MacMahon for his running away from the.
First of all, good. No, nobody. You don't have enough friends to make those kind of comments. So stop. All right, and then we're going Cavs corner. I know the man. It's March. He missed a clutch free throw today. Cavs still pulled it out. Don't worry, Wendy. I don't know if you're caught up on your little screen there, but the Cavs.
I don't know if you heard, but the Cavs haven't lost in a month, MacMahon.
Well, I'll tell you what. A lot of that's because of Darius Garland's clutch performance. Now, the Cavs only had 3 clutch games last month, right? And only a total of 8 clutch minutes. But one of those games, Darius Garland, cool as could be, pulled up on the Pistons logo and hit a 31-foot buzzer beater. Ooh, it was pretty. And then
winning in Little Caesars is not to be taken for granted.
No, anymore. It's not. And a 31-foot buzzer beater, like, come on now, that's doing something. And then the last clutch game they had, he didn't have a great game against the Celtics, but he hit a huge 3 when things were tight, just under 5 minutes. And then he hit that little step back, long 2, little dagger there in the final minute. So Darius Garland getting the silver medal.
Getting it for hitting a shot with a minute to go against the Celtics when they were winning.
A 31-foot buzzer beater, you dork. Like you combine Bontemps, if you combine the length of every bucket you made in high school, you're not getting 31 feet. All right, but add up all like 7 of your buckets in high school, you're not getting 31 feet.
I always enjoy
yeah, you're done.
I just always enjoy the explanations, as do some of our friends in the league.
By the way, did you see the other night when Steph had 56 in Orlando?
I sure did.
that he made 391 feet of shots in that game.
I did not
Incredible.
see that. That is incredible.
And then they made the last dunk of his career on Saturday.
Did they
Big
have?
week for
Was
Steph.
that the most like distance of shots in his career?
No.
Wow.
Well, no, it was most of his career, yes, but it wasn't the most on record.
Who?
Lillard had a 400-foot game
That
a
doesn't
couple
surprise me.
years ago. Me either, but he must have hit a bunch of logo shots that night.
Well, logo Lillard. Yeah.
That is crazy. 400 feet of shots in a game.
I mean, and see the Steph
Well,
one,
Lillard's had
he
some
made a
huge
50-footer.
scoring games.
Well, Steph threw in a 50-footer, which kind of, padded the stats. I mean, I don't mean to take anything away from,
Right.
but he had one in there that sort of, ballooned it a little bit. I mean, I got to go back and see this Lillard game. I mean, he must have. I know that Lillard back when he was in Portland, I know he had some hot nights when he had
a 70-point game, right?
Maybe that was the night. I got to go back and look. I just remember seeing that it wasn't the farthest on record. And I mean, we've only been able to track the distance of shots for so long.
Few years, yeah.
I don't know if Bob Pettit had a game where he had 420 or something.
Got to get those little Bob Pettit reference in there. I don't think old Bullet Bob was straying too far from the paint back in the day.
All right.
All right. The gold medalist for the
Okay.
February Cojones Factor. It's a good thing that Jalen Brunson had such a great clutch month because, boy, there were some games that weren't exactly clutch down the stretch, let's just say, for the Knicks. But they did go 6-0 in games that were within 5 points.
Wow.
In the final 5 minutes. Get this. Listen to these numbers. 6-0 in those games. Brunson played 37 minutes, was plus 30, had 49 points, 54, 63, 88 shooting splits, and 8 assists. Had the most clutch assists, including, by the way, Memphis. I think it was the last day of the month, one of the last couple of days, just the other day.
Yeah, they won by 1.
When he had a clutch three-pointer,
yes,
Memphis takes the lead, then he drives and dishes to OG Anunoby for the game winner.
Game winner.
So they were 6-0 in clutch games. They were 3-0 when they were tied or trailed by a one-possession margin in the last 30 seconds.
Man.
And Brunson had 7 points on 3 of 4 shooting, and that assist for the OG game-winning 3 in those situations.
He also led them all the way home against Philly last Wednesday. They were in some trouble. They got behind, and he scored like the last 9 points of the game.
Dude, nut cutting, one possession margin, final 3 minutes, 35 points plus 34 in 20 minutes on crazy efficiency,
Plus
13 and 19
34.
and 5 of 8 from 3.
I was just wondering. I think the first 4 on the MVP ballot are probably pretty set with the order. We'll see. Not that I would spend that much time who'd be 5th. I put Brunson 5th in my last Bontemps poll submission. And I was thinking, Friday night, I was like, Donovan Mitchell's got to get some credit. I mean, if this Cavs team wins 67, 68 games and he's doing this, how does he not get credit? But how do I demote when I hear these stats? How do I demote Jalen Brunson?
I mean, either one of those guys is a viable 5th MVP option for sure. And if Giannis has an injury, then they'll probably be 4th and 5th.
I want to throw one other name into that mix because you mentioned this the other day, Wendy, and I was thinking about it. A 40-year-old gentleman by the name of LeBron James is putting together an MVP ballot kind of case as, I don't know, we'll see what happens tonight, but the Lakers could be the 2 seed in the West by the time this pod comes out.
It's true.
So LeBron's stats since actually turning 40. Hold on, I'll get him for you. I mean, it's
and I'll just add while you're looking these up, JJ Redick has made it clear LeBron is playing at an all defensive type of level.
Yeah, I got him right here. Since January 1st, which is basically it.
That's fine.
Since the start of the new year. 26.6 points, 8.5 rebounds, 8.2 assists on 54.8% shooting, 43% from 3 on 6 attempts per game.
And
Plus,
what's the Lakers' record in that span? Like their
record is in the games he's played in 25 games, they are 18-7.
I mean, LeBron is having a hell of a season.
Hell of a year, for sure. Certainly putting himself in the mix, no question.
The Lakers have a little bit of a challenge here. They're playing the Clippers tonight. We'll see what happens. But we have an injury to Rui Hachimura and now an injury to Austin Reeves.
Yeah. And look, the Lakers they've been the number one defense in the league since mid-January. There is certainly some opponent shooting luck / like they're getting the guys that they want to shoot threes on the opposing team shooting them. We'll see how that holds up. However, Luka's scoring numbers and efficiency since he's been in LA, when coming off of the longest injury absence of his career, new team, blah, blah, blah. Luka's not going to be averaging in the teens on mid-30s shooting for much longer. So
look, you said this earlier, 10 days ago. Just go look at Luka's first 10 games this year coming off that calf injury. He was scoring more points then because the Mavericks needed him more offensively, but his shooting percentages were crap.
Yeah, he was doing the thing where he'd put up 28, 8, and 8 and not play well.
Right.
Right now, he's actually playing well, except for he's having a hard time putting the ball in the hole.
Yeah. Well, by the way,
I feel good about him putting the ball in the hole. That's one thing I'm not concerned about.
Yeah, he tends to figure that out when as his legs get under him. You don't worry about that part of his game.
I went and found the Damian Lillard game was the 71-point game when he had 400 feet worth of shots. Just as a quick aside, because it's the 63rd anniversary of the Wilt Chamberlain game today. The 100-point game. Dame's line in this game hit 71 points on 22 for 38 shooting, 13 for 22 from 3, and 14 for 14 at the line in 39 minutes, and he had 71 points. So
do you know how hard it is to get up 22 threes when you are the focal point of the other team's
How
defense?
about 22 threes in 39 minutes? Like, to me,
that's what I'm saying. Obviously everybody talks about can another person ever score 100 in a game in the NBA again, like Wilt did? You look at this box score, I don't know how anybody's going to score more points than that in a game. Going 13 for 22 from 3 is crazy alone, let alone the rest of it. And he got to the line over 10 times. And he still was 29 points short.
By the way, I just saw the Bucks come through Dallas, and look, the Mavericks, still have almost every front court player out. PJ Washington left that game with an ankle injury. He's going to miss Monday, which is actually a key game against the Kings. But that Dame Giannis combo, and the Bucks now sitting 9 games above 500. They're, not bad for a team that was 2-12, I believe, at one point.
Look, the Bucks have if you're a Bucks fan, what you're saying is, if we can get to 4, we'd have home court in the first round and be on the opposite side of the bracket as the Celtics. Not that beating the Cavs is going to be easy, but you're saying we'd have the best player in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll take their chances with that.
Yes.
And they're sitting in 4 as we speak right.
I think they've won 5 of 6 or something like that. And they've been keeping their head above water since Portis went down. Brook Lopez has had some good games. His minutes are pretty up there, but he's put up some good games without Portis. Kuzma's been okay. He's kind of been up and down. I know he left the game the other night with an injury. I don't have an update on that, but yeah, since the All-Star break, the Bucks have been doing some things. So yeah, we'll see. I think, they have played, they've got one more game left with the Cavs. I think it's coming up. The Cavs are 3-0 against them, but the games were close, and I think Giannis missed at least one of them, and Middleton missed probably all of them. I don't know. But all right, point taken. All right, beautiful Cojones Factor there by our guy MacMahon. Jalen Brunson, put it on the shelf. All right, thank you to Jackson, our producer. Thank you
Shout out to our fellow podcaster, Jalen Brunson.
That's right. We can no longer say that about Podcast P. He's retired. Thank you to all the Podcast P listeners who have come over to join us on the pod. Now the Podcast P is
on
hiatus. Thank you to Bontemps and MacMahon. Thank you for watching and listening to the Hoop Collective. We will talk to you early next week, which, by the way, MacMahon, I'm going to New York. Me and Bontemps are going to... Last week, I hung out with you in L.A. This week, hanging out with Bontemps in New York. I'll report back on who was the better date.
Well, I promise you, I'm a hell of a lot more fun than Bontemps. Have fun with the USWB.
All right, we'll talk to you guys then.
Adios, amigos.